Hey there, and welcome to my episode 5 review of The Last of Us, and this episode is called Endure and Survive. I should probably start doing that from now on, and I will, and just also spoilers, because I just keep assuming that everyone's like me, that and you've played the game, so you know what's going to happen, but we're 5 episodes in, I'm going to change the format. Before we get into it, I'm drinking more of this Svedka, this cherry limeade here. I'm trying something different, the Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, which is pretty goddamn good, so all I can tell you before going into this episode is prepare to get your Kleenex out or your handkerchiefs and start crying, because it's like every single time a woman ever wants to sleep with me, you're going to be sad and maybe disappointed. It depends how you look on it. So, all right, let's get some Dr. Pepper Zero. And again, this is strawberries and cream, which is really freaking good with this Sveka here. All right, you ready? Let's try this out. Yeah.
It tastes so good.
Can't put this stuff down. Okay, so episode 5. Yeah, I already played the game, so I knew what was going to happen, so I didn't tear up, but it's definitely a very sad episode. It's very emotional, and there's even some pretty good action.
Smooth action and beautifully finished.
So sit back, and I'm going to take a few minutes. Hope you like this review on it, and as always, enjoy my intro. Okay, well, the episode starts off and Kansas City is in trouble. The people are rallying and Fedra has taken over, and apparently, Fedra became the new government. These are horrible people and a horrible system. And we do get more screen time with this woman called Kathleen. And come to find out, she's one of the people where you're a resistance fighter, we're the good guys, but you're not. You're just as bad as Fedra, if not worse, so what a bitch. The short version is Kathleen is trying to find these two characters called Henry and Sam. Now, I played the video games, so I know who Henry and Sam are. And basically, Henry and Sam are just trying to get out of the city, and they're having trouble since there's militias out there and people that have guns and the like. So what they do is they're up inside of this attic and they have supplies. They have supplies for about 10 days and they're just trying to wait it out. After 10 days, well, there's not much going on. They've been waiting for a friend. Friend never shows up, probably got freaking killed, and now they have to get out of there. And basically, it's kind of a flashback, kind of like, side story from showing the events of episode 4. Since Joel and Ellie got attacked, and the entire time Henry is watching this, and Henry's like, okay, this guy apparently can handle himself. Before I go any further, the one thing they do, which I didn't like, and I didn't understand, is the character of Sam. This kid's 8 years old. We never know what Henry's age is. For the sake of the video, I'm assuming he's 18, so we'll just go with that. And Sam is deaf. I'm not sure why they did it for. It doesn't add any more complexity to the story. It doesn't change the fate of what's going to happen to this character, but okay. They sneak up on Joel and Ellie while they're sleeping, and they point guns to their heads. And then Joel and Ellie wake up and are like, oh shit.
Oh, shit.
After Henry and Sam put their guns away, they basically make an alliance with Joel and Ellie, because Henry's like, I saw what you can do. I know what you're about. I'm not a fighter. I'm not experienced at this stuff. I'm just basically a scared, teenager. And Joel is hesitant at first, but he knows the fact that Henry knows the city. And we get some pretty good dialogue, because it comes down to these situations that happen whenever you have these end of the world scenarios. Because Henry thinks he's a bad person. He's a rat. He calls himself a collaborator because he was working with Fedra, and you can't blame him in the situation. And Joel understands, because obviously supplies and medicine are very scarce in these situations. What does he do? His younger brother's dying. I think he said he had leukemia, and he has to give up Kathleen, her brother, for information because he needs medicine to save his younger brother. Kathleen's pissed off. Henry's scared and running. Joel understands. Any situations, you can't blame the kid, because, come on, it's that whole situation you go through that. I'm a father, and if this was end of the world and you had a son and I have food, it's like, who am I going to feed? Your kid or my kid? Who's more important, your family or my family? It's 10 out of 10 times the person that's most important is the person that's tied to you. So yeah, it's not that in the grand scheme of things that my kid's more important than your kid, but it comes down to it's my kid. So I'm going to feed my kid and your kid's going to fucking starve. So you can't blame Henry for doing the situation and kind of betraying Kathleen, because it's like, hey, I'm sorry, but my younger brother, who's 8 years old, is more important than your older brother, who's a grown-ass man. So bad decision, but I get it.
You can't blame him for being upset.
After all the dialogue, the 4 of them are trying to leave the city. Out of nowhere, a sniper is trying to pick the 4 of them off. Joel hunts the guy down, kills him, and okay, now Joel has a sniper rifle. And that plays an important part to anybody who's played the game, but also this upcoming sequence, because now Kathleen catches up to them, but also she says this line of like, well, your little brother there, he's just a kid. Kids die all the fucking time. And it's like, you know what, lady? Fuck you.
Go fuck yourself.
During this excellent action sequence, Joel has a sniper rifle and he's making some really good shots. He saves Ellie. Ellie is trying to help out Henry and Sam because they're trapped under a car and, clickers and infected are trying to kill them. She stabs one in its neck and they're about to get away. But last second, Kathleen corners them, pulls out a gun, and here comes the whole karma because it's a bitch. Since a few minutes ago, you were telling Henry that screw kids die all the time, and right behind her is a little kid clicker. So it kills her, as you can imagine, and they escape. So here comes the end of the episode, and just prepare for some tears.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Let's pour some straight because we're going to need it. And yeah, so the four of them make it to a hotel room, and there's some really great dialogue with Ellie and, well, I'm sorry, Sam doesn't have dialogue, but he has like a little etchy sketch there, and they're talking and they're bonding. But during the action sequence, guess what? Sam, his leg, he was scratched and he's infected. And it just, whether the kid was deaf or not deaf, I felt like not being deaf, they could have had some really good like dialogue through his voice and just like how he's scared and afraid, but it still comes across that he's scared and he's writing it down. Ellie does something that's really honorable and just really tragic and also tear-jerking because she's like, hey, listen, I'm immune. And she takes a knife and she cuts her hand. And we know it's not going to work, but in theory, it should work. So Ellie cuts her hand and she just rubs the blood because she has magic blood and she's the cure. She rubs it into his wound, hoping that, he'll be okay. And just the way he writes it down, but it's so sad because poor Sam's like, will you stay up with me? And she does for a time, but she falls asleep. And when she wakes up, poor Sam, he's infected, he's a zombie, and that's how it is. So he's attacking her, he has her pinned on the ground. Of course, Joel and Henry wake up, and Henry's just freaking out, panicking. What does he do? The only thing you freaking can do. He's got to kill his kid brother. So he kills his kid brother, and we're all like, oh shit. And he's pointing the gun at Joel and Ellie, not knowing what to do. And just, it's tragic because this happened in the game as well. At a last minute panic and last minute, not knowing what to do, he just turns a gun on himself and you're like, damn, Henry, goodbye. And it adds more of the tragedy to the story of The Last of Us. So yeah, gonna have a drink for poor Sam and poor Henry.
And I will miss you.
In the end, Joel digs a couple of graves, buries them. Ellie takes a sketch pad and just says, I'm sorry. And that's the end of the episode. I mean, they're both affected by it, but there's not much more you can do. As an episode, I thought this was actually a very good episode. Like, I did like it. And again, I got a comment because I watched the whole inside the episode afterwards. The first thing I'm just questioning is like, Sam, why make him deaf for? And it didn't feel like it added anything to the story. It didn't add any complexity to the character, and it just makes me wonder going forward that, as I said with the whole thing with Bill in episode 3, if making Sam deaf was so important to the story, so important to his character, why not have that in the game for? It almost feels like you guys are too busy trying to fucking check boxes, because it's like, I can imagine producers and now Neil Druckmann, hey guys, okay, well, besides this kid dying, besides him being black, let's do something else and let's now make him deaf, because we need to have more diversity and more, inclusivity, just like episode 3. If Bill was so important to be a gay character, why not devote that much time to the game? But hey, guess what, guys? Our show is all about, being inclusive. We have gay characters that die, and black characters that die, and black deaf characters that die. I don't understand the direction, like why they did this for, because, the kid's gonna die either way, his brother's gonna kill himself either way, so why add that change besides seeming like you're just trying to, score some brownie points with the wrong people? But, as a gamer, I didn't care. It was cool seeing a bloater, and it was kind of, good just seeing more of like this bond with Ellie and Joel. The thing I didn't like as a gamer, and even as a non-gamer, is the storytelling of the first 15 minutes. I truly felt like, because we're getting more scenes that with Kathleen that didn't exist in the game, we're getting these scenes with Henry and Sam that didn't exist in the game. It felt like the first 15 minutes was just padding the content. It's a lot more filler. And if I show this to my friend Russell, we recently talked about The Mummy, which you guys can check out, and I'll put the link below and stuff, that, it's like you're taking, I felt like a half-hour footage and you're dragging out until like 50 minutes because you're trying to pad it, and you're adding a lot of stuff that isn't necessary. Because again, in the games, the entire story is from Joel's perspective with a little bit of Ellie, and that's it. These characters, like with Sam and, Henry, I don't feel like just showing these guys stuck for 10 days and, doing superhero stuff and drawing with crayons. It doesn't add any more drama or any more complexity to the tragic fate of what happens with both characters. It's like, why give these characters so much more time that they don't need? This happened with Tess, They're tragic characters. They have a tragic story. They die pretty quickly. We don't need this much airtime given onto them. It's just, for me, The Last of Us as a game and as a story, as the show should be, is more about Joel and Ellie in situations like this, showing Ellie how screwed up the world can be, and Joel just how much he's used to this shit. You know, after having his daughter die in his arms 20 years later, Joel's seen this kind of stuff all the goddamn time. So, was a good episode. I would recommend it. Good action, good seeing the zombies, the bloater, etc. So, I didn't hate it by any means, but I would say that it's good, but it's not great. I think so far the game handled it better, but okay. So, but hope you liked my review. I tried making it more, enunciating better, talking a little bit slower, presenting myself in a better way. And as we always do, we are going to check our friggin' watches, low on time, have to get to editing, and yeah, I'm out of this stuff, but screw it. Let's see. I got some more Dr. Pepper. All right, so I'm gonna pull up Bender. Before I do it though, I gotta tell you about my job.
I hate my job.
And now let's grab Bender, okay?
This calls for a drink.
This is good. You should try it. All right. And now,
Wait for it.
I have to head back to work.